My sister ruined me life by marrying the guy I liked all my life. She knew that I liked him, but to spite me, she started dating him when... Growing up, Jake was the boy next door. Literally. Our families moved into adjacent houses the same summer when I was 7 and Jake was 8. From the moment I saw him with his shaggy brown hair and bright blue eyes, I was smitten. He was everything a young girl's first crush should be. Kind, adventurous, and completely oblivious to my feelings. We became fast friends, spending our afternoons climbing trees, riding bikes, and playing hide-and-seek in our interconnected backyards. My sister Emily, a year younger than me, was always around too, but back then she was just my annoying little sister who occasionally tagged along. Little did I know that Emily's presence in our childhood adventures would mark the beginning of a much darker, more complicated chapter in my life. As the years passed, my feelings for Jake only grew stronger. I was too shy to say anything, but I cherished every moment we spent together. Emily, on the other hand, seemed to grow more competitive with each passing year. Whether it was about grades, sports, or who could climb the tallest tree, she always had to outdo me. I thought it was just sibling rivalry, but looking back, I wonder if she sensed how much I liked Jake and made it her mission to disrupt that. In middle school, my crush on Jake became painfully obvious. To everyone except Jake, of course. I found myself daydreaming about him in class, doodling his name in the margins of my notebooks, and hoping he would ask me to the school dances. Emily noticed and started making snide comments, teasing me mercilessly about my puppy love. I brushed it off, thinking it was just typical sisterly teasing. I never imagined it was the prelude to something far more insidious. High school was supposed to be my chance to finally tell Jake how I felt. We had grown even closer, and I was certain he saw me as more than just the girl next door. But as luck would have it, Emily had other plans. Freshman year, she joined the cheerleading squad and quickly became one of the most popular girls in school. She was beautiful, outgoing, and knew exactly how to get what she wanted. And what she wanted, it seemed, was to make sure I never had a chance with Jake. One day, during a particularly rough week of high school, I gathered all my courage and decided to ask Jake to the upcoming spring dance. I rehearsed my lines in front of the mirror 100 times, imagining every possible response he could give. Finally, I caught him alone by his locker, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure he could hear it. "Hey, Jake," I began, trying to sound casual. "I was wondering if you'd like to go to the spring dance with me." Jake looked up from his locker, surprised. "Oh, I didn't realize you were interested in going with anyone," he said, his cheeks flushing slightly. My heart soared. This was it, my moment. But before he could say anything more, Emily appeared out of nowhere, slipping her arm around Jake's shoulders with a grin. "Guess what, Jake?" she said, her voice dripping with sweetness. "I just got tickets to that new concert this weekend. How about we go together instead of the dance? It'll be way more fun." I stood there frozen as Jake's eyes lit up. "That sounds awesome, Emily. I'd love to go with you." Emily turned to me, her smile never wavering. "Sorry, sis, looks like Jake's got other plans." She winked and led him away, leaving me standing there, shattered. From that moment on, Emily seemed to take pleasure in stealing every opportunity I had to get closer to Jake. Whether it was inviting him to study sessions, joining clubs he was in, or just monopolizing his time, she always found a way to insert herself between us. And Jake, sweet, oblivious Jake, never seemed to notice the hurt and betrayal that burned inside me. I tried to move on, to focus on my studies and make new friends, but no matter what I did, I couldn't shake my feelings for Jake. He was always there, just out of reach, and Emily was always there, blocking my path. Little did I know this was just the beginning of Emily's twisted game, and as much as it hurt, I couldn't tear myself away. Jake was my first love, and I wasn't ready to give up on him no matter what Emily did. High school quickly turned into a battleground where Emily wielded her popularity and charm like weapons. Despite my best efforts to rise above the fray, her tactics grew more cunning and cruel. By sophomore year, it became clear that Emily was hell-bent on keeping Jake away from me at any cost. One particularly humiliating incident occurred during our sophomore year homecoming. The theme was A Night Under the Stars, and I had spent weeks fantasizing about dancing with Jake under the twinkling lights. When he casually mentioned he didn't have a date yet, my heart leaped with hope. I decided this would be the night I would finally make my move. I spent hours getting ready, putting on a new dress I'd saved up for, and carefully curling my hair. My nerves were a mess, but I felt a flicker of confidence as I looked in the mirror. I headed to the dance with a mix of excitement and dread, praying this would be my night. When I arrived at the gym, transformed into a glittering starlit sky, I searched for Jake. I spotted him near the punch bowl, looking as handsome as ever in his suit. Just as I was about to approach him, Emily sauntered over, looking stunning in a figure-hugging dress. She saw me and gave a smirk that sent chills down my spine. "Hey, sis," she said, loud enough for everyone around to hear. "Nice dress. Did you get that from the bargain bin?" Laughter erupted from the small crowd that had gathered around them. My face burned with embarrassment, but I forced myself to walk up to Jake. "Jake, would you like to dance?" I asked, my voice trembling. Jake looked at me with an awkward smile. Actually, Emily and I were just about to—" Emily interrupted, taking Jake's hand. "Come on, Jake, let's show everyone how it's done." She pulled him onto the dance floor, leaving me standing there, humiliated and heartbroken. The rest of the night was a blur of forced smiles and silent tears. I tried to enjoy myself, dancing with friends and pretending not to care, but every time I saw Emily and Jake together, it felt like a knife twisting in my heart. This pattern continued throughout high school. Emily's manipulative ways grew more sophisticated, and Jake remained blissfully unaware of the tension between us. She joined the same clubs as him, became the star of the cheerleading squad, and even managed to get elected as student body president, all the while keeping Jake firmly under her spell. One rainy afternoon during junior year, we were assigned a group project in history class. By some stroke of fate, Jake and I ended up in the same group. For the first time in months, I had a chance to spend time with him without Emily hovering nearby. We decided to meet at the local library to work on our presentation. As we sat together, poring over textbooks and brainstorming ideas, I felt a flicker of the old friendship we once had. Jake was kind and funny, just as I remembered, and for a moment it felt like we were kids again, climbing trees and sharing secrets. My heart swelled with hope, thinking maybe, just maybe, I still had a chance. We took a break and walked to the nearby cafe for some coffee. The rain had let up, and the air smelled fresh and clean. As we sipped our drinks, Jake turned to me with a smile. "You know, it's been a long time since we've hung out like this. I've missed it." My heart raced. "I've missed it too, Jake. A lot." He looked at me, his blue eyes piercing through my soul. "I want to apologize for everything. I feel like we've drifted apart, and I hate that." I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could say anything, Emily appeared, drenched from the rain but still managing to look annoyingly perfect. "There you are, Jake. I've been looking all over for you." She ignored me completely and grabbed Jake's arm. "Come on, let's get out of this rain." Jake glanced at me apologetically. "Sorry, I guess we should head back." I watched them walk away, the hope that had blossomed inside me withering once again. I realized then that Emily wasn't just trying to keep Jake from me. She was determined to erase any chance of happiness I might have with him. Senior year brought even more drama. Emily's popularity skyrocketed, and Jake, now the star quarterback of our football team, was constantly by her side. They were the golden couple, and I was the invisible girl who pined for a love that seemed more unreachable with each passing day. But I refused to give up. I joined the school newspaper hoping to find some solace in writing, and threw myself into my studies, determined to get into a good college and escape the nightmare my high school life had become. Every day was a struggle. but I held on to the faint glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, things would change. Little did I know, Emily had even more devastating plans in store, and as graduation approached, I would soon find myself facing the ultimate betrayal, one that would shatter my heart and change my life forever. The day I left for college was bittersweet. On one hand, I was finally escaping the toxic environment my high school years had become. On the other hand, I was leaving behind Jake, who was heading to a different university on a football scholarship. Emily, to my utter dismay, had also decided to attend the same college as me. The thought of having a fresh start was tainted by her presence, but I tried to focus on the positives. The first few weeks of college were a whirlwind of new experiences, classes, and people. I joined a few clubs, made new friends, and started to enjoy my newfound independence. For a while, I almost forgot about Jake and the drama Emily had orchestrated throughout high school. But of course, Emily found ways to remind me of her ever-present shadow. One sunny afternoon, as I was leaving the campus library, I saw them, Jake and Emily, walking hand in hand, laughing as if they didn't have a care in the world. My heart sank. Seeing them together, knowing that Emily had won again, was like a punch to the gut. I quickly ducked behind a nearby tree, hoping they wouldn't see me. "Did you hear?" a voice said from behind me. I turned to see my new friend Sarah standing there with a curious expression. "Hear what?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Emily and Jake. They're dating. It's all over campus." I forced a smile. "Yeah, I heard." Sarah gave me a sympathetic look. "I'm sorry. I know it's hard, but there are plenty of other guys here. Maybe it's time to move on." I nodded, though my heart wasn't in it. Moving on sounded great in theory, but in practice it was a different story. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal and hurt that lingered from years of Emily's manipulation. A few weeks later, the inevitable happened. Emily invited me to lunch, acting as if we were the best of friends. I hesitated, but curiosity got the better of me. Maybe she had changed. Maybe she wanted to make amends. I agreed, and we met at a small cafe off campus. Emily was all smiles as we sat down. "It's so great to finally catch up, sis. College is amazing, isn't it?" I nodded, sipping my coffee. "Yeah, it's been a great experience so far." She leaned in, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "So I have some news. Jake and I are officially dating." I plastered a smile on my face, though inside I was crumbling. "That's great, Emily. I'm happy for you." She grinned, clearly pleased with herself. "Thanks. I knew you'd understand. I mean, you and Jake were always just friends, right?" The way she said it, so casually dismissing my feelings, made my blood boil. But I kept my composure. "Yeah, just friends." Emily continued to prattle on about her relationship with Jake, oblivious to the pain she was causing. I tuned her out, nodding and smiling at the appropriate moments, all the while thinking about how to escape this nightmare. As the months went by, I threw myself into my studies and extracurricular activities, anything to keep my mind off Jake and Emily. I made new friends, attended parties, and even went on a few dates. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness that had settled in my heart. One night, during midterms, I was studying late in the library when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Jake. "Hey, can we talk?" My heart skipped a beat. I hadn't spoken to Jake in months, not since that awful lunch with Emily. I hesitated, then replied, "Sure, where are you?" "Outside your dorm." I quickly gathered my things and rushed back to my dorm. There he was, standing under the streetlight, looking as handsome as ever. My heart ached at the sight of him. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Hey," he replied, his eyes searching mine. "Can we go for a walk?" I nodded, and we began to walk in silence. The night air was cool and the campus was quiet, save for the occasional rustle of leaves in the breeze. Finally, Jake spoke. "I've missed you." My breath caught in my throat. "I've missed you too, Jake." He stopped walking and turned to face me. "I need to tell you something. Emily, she's not who you think she is." I blinked, taken aback. What do you mean? He ran a hand through his hair, looking frustrated. I mean, she's been lying to me about a lot of things, and about you. My heart pounded in my chest. What did she say? She told me that you never liked me, that you only saw me as a friend. But I don't believe her anymore. I think she was trying to keep us apart. Tears welled up in my eyes. Jake, I've always liked you. More than liked you, but Emily, she always found a way to come between us. Jake's expression softened. I'm so sorry, I should have seen it sooner. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. It was a text from Emily. We need to talk, now. I showed the text to Jake and his jaw clenched. Let's go. We walked quickly to Emily's dorm, and she opened the door before we even had a chance to knock. Her eyes widened when she saw us together. What's going on? She demanded, her voice shrill. That's what I want to know, Jake replied, his tone icy. You've been lying to me, Emily, and to your sister. Emily's face twisted in anger. Lying? About what? Jake stepped forward, his eyes blazing. About her feelings for me, about everything. Why, Emily, why would you do this? Emily's eyes flickered with something I couldn't quite place. Fear, perhaps? I don't know, I wanted to protect you. Protect me? Jake's voice rose. From what? From being happy? Emily's facade crumbled, and she looked genuinely upset. I was jealous, okay? I've always been jealous of her. She gets everything without even trying, and I have to fight for every little thing. I thought if I could have you, it would make things right. I stared at her, shocked. Emily, you don't have to fight for everything. You never did. You just had to be yourself. Tears streamed down Emily's face. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. The three of us stood there, the weight of Emily's confession hanging in the air. I felt a mix of relief and sorrow. Relief that the truth was finally out, and sorrow for all the lost time and hurt feelings. Jake turned to me, his expression softening. Can we start over? Please? I nodded, tears of my own flowing freely. I'd like that. As we left Emily's dorm, I felt a sense of hope I hadn't felt in years. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time it felt like it was mine to choose. And maybe, just maybe, Jake and I would find our way back to each other. But I knew this was only the beginning of a long and complicated journey. The shadows of the past still loomed, and the future was anything but certain. The revelation of Emily's deceit lingered like a dark cloud over the next few months. Despite Jake and I reconnecting, there was a palpable tension that seeped into every interaction. Emily, once the confident and manipulative sister, seemed subdued, almost regretful. It was strange seeing her like this, but the wounds she inflicted ran deep, and forgiveness wasn't something I could grant so easily. Thanksgiving break arrived, and with it, the inevitable family gathering. Our parents were excited to have us all back under one roof, blissfully unaware of the storm that had been brewing. I dreaded the idea of facing Emily in such close quarters, but I knew I couldn't avoid it forever. The drive home was long and silent. Jake and I had decided to carpool, partly to save on gas and partly because I didn't want to face my family alone. We chatted about our classes, the latest campus gossip, and anything that wasn't related to Emily. But the closer we got to home, the heavier the silence became. When we finally pulled into the driveway, I took a deep breath and steeled myself for the inevitable confrontation. My parents greeted us with warm hugs and cheerful smiles, completely oblivious to the tension simmering beneath the surface. Emily was already there, helping Mom set the table. She looked up as we entered, her eyes flickering with a mix of guilt and apprehension. "Dinner's almost ready," Mom announced, beaming at us. "Why don't you all catch up in the living room?" I forced a smile and nodded, leading the way into the living room. Jake followed, and Emily trailed behind us. As soon as we were out of earshot, Emily spoke up. "I know you don't want to hear this, but I'm really sorry," she said, her voice trembling. I know I messed up, and I know it's going to take a long time to make things right." I turned to face her, my emotions a swirling mix of anger and sadness. "You're right, Emily. You did mess up. You hurt me, and you hurt Jake. It's not something we can just forget." Emily nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. "I know, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it up to you." Jake stepped forward, his expression softening. "Emily, we appreciate your apology, but it's going to take time. We need to rebuild the trust you broke." Emily nodded again, looking down at her feet. "I understand. I hope we can get there someday." Dinner was a strained affair. Our parents were in high spirits, chatting about work, neighbors, and holiday plans, blissfully unaware of the emotional minefield we were navigating. Emily and I exchanged polite if stilted conversation, while Jake tried to steer the discussion to neutral topics. It was exhausting, but we made it through without any major blow-ups. After dinner, as we helped clear the table, Mom pulled me aside. "Is everything okay, honey? You seem a bit off." I hesitated, unsure of how much to reveal. "It's just been a rough semester, Mom. A lot of stress." Mom frowned, concern etched on her face. "Well, if you ever need to talk, you know I'm here for you." I forced a smile. "Thanks, Mom, I'll be fine." That night, as I lay in my childhood bed, memories of happier times flooded back. I thought about all the nights Emily and I had spent whispering secrets and sharing dreams. How had it all gone so wrong? I knew that forgiveness was a journey, but I wasn't sure if I was ready to take the first step. The next day we decided to go for a walk, just the three of us. It was a crisp autumn morning, the kind that made you feel alive and hopeful. We walked in silence for a while, the crunch of leaves underfoot the only sound. Finally, Jake spoke up. "I think we need to talk about what happens next," he said, looking at both of us. "We can't keep pretending everything is fine when it's not." Emily nodded, looking more serious than I'd ever seen her. "I agree. I want to be part of your lives, but I know I have to earn that." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision before me. "Emily, I appreciate your willingness to change, but it's not just about saying sorry. You need to show us that you're serious." Emily's eyes filled with determination. "I will, I promise." Over the next few days, we began the slow, painful process of mending our fractured relationship. Emily made a genuine effort to include me in conversations, to listen, and to show that she was changing. It wasn't easy, and there were moments when the old resentments flared up, but we were making progress. Jake was a constant source of support, encouraging both of us to keep trying. He and I spent a lot of time talking about our future, about how we wanted to move forward. We were both cautious, not wanting to rush things, but there was a sense of optimism that hadn't been there before. Christmas came and went, and with it, a tentative truce was formed. Emily and I still had a long way to go, but for the first time in years, I felt like there was hope. We returned to college with a renewed sense of purpose, determined to put the past behind us and build something better. But as winter turned to spring, new challenges arose. Emily's sincerity was put to the test, and Jake and I had to navigate the complexities of a relationship that was still fragile. The road ahead was uncertain, but we were committed to walking it together, one step at a time. And through it all, I couldn't help but wonder if we were truly on the path to healing, or if the shadows of the past would continue to haunt us. Only time would tell. Spring arrived with a sense of renewal, the campus blooming with color and life. Jake and I grew closer, our bond strengthening as we spent more time together. Emily seemed genuinely committed to changing, and while the scars of the past hadn't fully healed, there was a fragile peace between us. One warm April afternoon, Jake and I decided to take a walk by the lake near campus. The setting sun cast a golden glow over the water, and everything felt perfect. As we strolled hand in hand, Jake suddenly stopped and turned to face me, his eyes filled with a mixture of nerves and excitement. "I've been thinking about us a lot," he began, his voice steady. And I know we've been through so much, but it only made me realize how much I care about you." My heart raced, sensing something monumental about to happen. "Jake, I feel the same way." He smiled, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a small velvet box. My breath caught in my throat as he opened it to reveal a beautiful diamond ring. "I know this might seem sudden, but I can't imagine my life without you. Will you marry me?" Tears filled my eyes as I looked at the man I had loved for so long, finally asking the question I had dreamed of hearing. "Yes, Jake, yes, I'll marry you." He slipped the ring onto my finger and we embraced, the world around us disappearing in that perfect moment. It felt like a fairy tale, a dream come true after years of heartache and longing. We decided to keep the engagement a secret for a while, wanting to savor the joy without any drama. But secrets have a way of slipping out, and it wasn't long before Emily found out. Her reaction was surprisingly supportive, though I couldn't help but wonder if she was truly happy for us, or if she was masking her own pain. One evening, a few weeks after the engagement, Emily pulled me aside. "I'm really happy for you and Jake," she said, her voice sincere. "I know I haven't made things easy, but I want to be there for you. Whatever you need, I'm here." Her words took me by surprise, and I felt a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, we could move forward as a family. "Thank you, Emily, that means a lot." As we navigated the early days of our engagement, I realized that while the road ahead would be filled with challenges, we were finally moving towards a brighter future. The wounds of the past still lingered, but with Jake by my side and Emily seemingly committed to change, I felt ready to face whatever came next. But life has a way of throwing curveballs, and just when I thought things were settling down, an unexpected twist would put our newfound happiness to the test. The months leading up to the wedding were a whirlwind of planning and anticipation. Jake and I reveled in our engagement, excitedly discussing every detail of our big day. Emily, to my surprise, was helpful, offering to assist with the planning and even throwing me a beautiful engagement party. For a while it felt like things were finally falling into place. But as the wedding day approached, the tension began to build. Emily, despite her best efforts, couldn't completely mask the jealousy and regret that simmered beneath the surface. The rehearsal dinner was the first sign of trouble. Emily had been drinking more than usual, and her cheerful facade started to crack. During the toasts, Emily stood up, slightly unsteady on her feet. "To my sister," she began, her voice slurring a bit. "I know I've been difficult, but I want you to know I love you, and I'm happy for you and Jake. Really." The room fell silent, the guests exchanging awkward glances. Jake reached for my hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. Emily continued, her words becoming more jumbled. "But let's be honest, sis. We both know you always wanted what I had. And now you have him. So, congratulations." She raised her glass in a mock toast, then stumbled back into her seat. The room erupted in uncomfortable laughter, and I felt my cheeks burn with embarrassment. Jake quickly stood up, steering the conversation back to safer territory, but the damage was done. The next morning, as I prepared for the wedding, my nerves were on edge. Emily knocked on my door looking pale and remorseful. "I'm so sorry about last night," she said, her voice shaking. "I was drunk and stupid. Please, forgive me." I wanted to believe her, to give her the benefit of the doubt. "It's okay, Emily, just please don't cause any more drama today. It's my wedding day." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I promise, I'll behave." The ceremony was beautiful, a dream come true. As I walked down the aisle, all I could see was Jake, his eyes filled with love and anticipation. We exchanged vows, promising to love and cherish each other forever. It felt like a fairy tale, a perfect moment in time. But the reception was another story. During the speeches, Emily took the microphone again. My heart sank, dreading what she might say. She started off well, reminiscing about our childhood and wishing us happiness. But then she veered off script. "I know I've made mistakes," she said, her voice cracking, "and I know I've hurt you, sis. But I can't help but wonder, What if things had been different? What if Jake had chosen me? The room went dead silent, the air thick with tension. Jake stood up, his face a mask of anger. "Emily, that's enough." But Emily wasn't done. "No, let me finish. I need to say this. I've loved Jake for years, and seeing you two together, it kills me. I thought I could handle it, but I can't. I'm sorry, but I can't pretend anymore." She dropped the microphone and ran out of the room, leaving a trail of shocked guests in her wake. I stood there, stunned, my heart breaking all over again. Jake wrapped his arms around me, whispering reassurances, but the damage was done. The fairy tale was shattered. As the night wore on, we tried to salvage the celebration, dancing and laughing with our friends and family. But Emily's words hung over me like a dark cloud, a reminder of the pain and betrayal that had marred our journey. In the days that followed, I struggled to process what had happened. Emily's confession had reopened old wounds, and I wasn't sure how to move forward. But one thing was clear. The road to healing would be long and difficult, and it would take more than just time to mend our broken family. Despite everything, I held on to the hope that love would see us through. Jake and I had faced so many challenges together, and I believed that we could overcome this one too. But deep down, I knew that the shadows of the past would always be there, lurking in the background, ready to resurface at any moment. The day after the wedding disaster, Jake and I were supposed to be packing for our honeymoon, but instead, we found ourselves dealing with the aftermath of Emily's outburst. My emotions were a tangled mess of anger, hurt, and disappointment. How could Emily have chosen my wedding day to make such a spectacle? Jake, ever the pillar of strength, suggested we go for a drive to clear our heads. As we navigated the winding roads outside of town, he reached over and took my hand. "We'll get through this," he said, his voice steady. "We always do." I nodded, grateful for his unwavering support. But inside I was battling a storm of emotions. How could I ever forgive Emily, and what did her confession mean for our future? A few days later we reluctantly returned home. I wasn't ready to face Emily, but she showed up at our doorstep, her face pale and drawn. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake glanced at me, silently asking if I was okay with this. I nodded, and we invited her in. We sat around the kitchen table, the air thick with tension. "I'm sorry," Emily began, her eyes brimming with tears. "I ruined your wedding day. I was selfish and thoughtless. I didn't mean to hurt you both like that." Her words were sincere, but the pain was still fresh. "Why, Emily?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Why did you have to do it then of all times?" She looked down, her hands twisting in her lap. "I guess I thought, if I said it out loud, it would make it real, and I could finally move on. But I realize now that it was the worst possible time." Jake leaned forward, his expression serious. "Emily, we need to know if you're truly ready to let go. If you're going to be part of our lives, we need to be sure this won't happen again." Emily nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I am. I'm ready to let go. I promise." I wanted to believe her, but trust wasn't something that could be rebuilt overnight. "It's going to take time, Emily. We can't just go back to how things were." She nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "I understand. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right." Over the next few weeks, Emily worked hard to prove she was sincere. She attended therapy, both individually and with us, to address her issues and rebuild the trust she had shattered. Slowly, the walls between us began to come down, but it was a fragile peace, easily disrupted by the slightest misstep. One evening, as Jake and I were cooking dinner, my phone buzzed with a text from Emily. "Can we meet for coffee tomorrow? Just the two of us?" I hesitated, but Jake encouraged me. "Maybe it's time to really talk, just you and her, clear the air." The next day I met Emily at our favorite cafe. She looked nervous but determined. "Thanks for coming," she said, her voice shaky. We sat down, and for the first time in a long while we had an honest conversation. Emily spoke about her jealousy, her feelings of inadequacy, and how she had always felt like she was competing with me. I shared my own struggles, my hurt, and my hope that we could move forward. By the end of our conversation, I felt a flicker of hope. Emily seemed genuinely remorseful and committed to change. It was a small step, but it was a step in the right direction. As the weeks turned into months, the fragile peace between us slowly solidified. We started to rebuild our relationship brick by brick. Jake and I focused on our future, planning for the life we wanted to build together. But just when I thought we were finally finding our footing, life threw us another curveball, one that would test our newfound peace and force us to confront the lingering shadows of the past. Months passed, and the fragile peace Emily and I had begun to build seemed to hold. Jake and I were settling into our new life as a married couple, and Emily appeared to be making a genuine effort to change. We were cautious, but the hope that our relationship could be salvaged grew stronger each day. One evening, Jake and I were enjoying a quiet dinner at home when my phone buzzed with a call from Emily. My stomach tightened with a mix of anxiety and curiosity. "Hi, Emily, what's up?" Her voice was shaky. "I need to talk to you. Can you come over?" Jake looked at me, his brow furrowed with concern. "Do you want me to come with you?" I shook my head. "I'll go alone. This might be something she needs to say just to me." I drove to Emily's apartment, my mind racing with possibilities. When I arrived, she opened the door, her eyes red and puffy from crying. "Come in," she said softly. We sat on her couch and she took a deep breath. "There's something I need to tell you. I should have told you a long time ago, but I was scared." My heart pounded in my chest. "What is it, Emily?" She looked down at her hands, twisting them nervously. "After the wedding, I found out I was pregnant. The room seemed to spin." "Pregnant? With Jake's?" No, she quickly interjected. "Not Jake's. It was a brief relationship I had after the wedding. I was so messed up trying to cope with everything. I didn't know how to tell you." I felt a mix of relief and shock. "Why are you telling me now?" Tears streamed down her face. "Because I need your support. I'm scared and I don't know if I can do this alone. I know I've hurt you, but I need you, sis." My heart ached for her. Despite everything, she was still my sister, and she needed me. "Emily, we'll figure this out together. You're not alone." The months that followed were a whirlwind of doctor's appointments, planning, and emotional ups and downs. Emily moved in with Jake and me temporarily, and we all adjusted to the new dynamic. It wasn't easy, but the shared experience brought us closer together. As Emily's due date approached, our bond strengthened. Jake was a constant support, and I found myself genuinely excited about becoming an aunt. The baby, a little girl Emily decided to name Lily, became a symbol of hope and renewal for all of us. The day Lily was born, I stood by Emily's side, holding her hand as she brought a new life into the world. The moment I saw Lily's tiny face, I felt an overwhelming sense of love and connection. This innocent child was a new beginning for all of us. After Lily's birth, Emily blossomed into a devoted mother. She continued therapy and worked hard to maintain the changes she had begun. Our relationship, once marred by jealousy and betrayal, grew stronger with each passing day. Jake and I, inspired by the new chapter in our lives, decided to start our own family. It was a decision filled with hope and excitement, knowing that we had faced and overcome so many challenges together. One sunny afternoon, as we all sat in the park watching Lily play, Emily turned to me. "Thank you for giving me another chance. I know I didn't deserve it, but I'm so grateful." I smiled, squeezing her hand. "We're family, Emily. We may have taken a rough path to get here, but we're stronger for it." As I watched Lily giggle and chase after butterflies, I felt a profound sense of peace. The shadows of the past had been replaced by the light of new beginnings. Our journey had been tumultuous, filled with heartache and betrayal, but it had also brought us closer together in ways I never could have imagined. To those who have followed my story, thank you for listening. Life is full of unexpected twists and turns, but it's the people we love who help us navigate the journey. Have you ever faced a betrayal that seemed insurmountable? How did you find your way through it? I'd love to hear your stories and thoughts. Let's keep supporting each other as we navigate the highs and lows of life.